Olo here, back at you. You know I gotta give it to you. Here back with another video. You know what I'm saying? I gotta keep these videos coming, man. You know what I'm saying? Just informative, educating the people. But I'm not gonna keep, like I said, I'm not gonna talk your head off. I'm gonna just keep it brief. You know, I got a very important topic today. Today we're gonna discuss social engineering. Very, very, very important. So, what is social engineering? It's the use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change and regulate the future development and behavior of a society. The context of information security, the use of deception to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential or personal information that may be used for fraudulent purposes. So that's very intricate and very deceptive. So let me break that down. It says the use of centralized planning. So that's basically like all with the government, you know what I'm saying? Like they develop systematic ways and implemented intricately into the system and the infrastructure to manipulate you. And that's how they regulate the masses of people. Like it says, manage social change. So the main objective is to control you, social change, and manipulate you into doing things that normally if you were aware of, you wouldn't do it. That's why it's like they do it in a way where it's not so easily detected. Meaning over time they learn different techniques to kind of like implement it in the system systematically where you can't easily detect it, so it becomes a norm and you don't question it. And that's why I always discuss things, because you know I'm on my diplomat journey. So I always tell people, like, they create an environment of fear. You see what I'm saying? They create an environment of fear to make you think a certain way. They kind of like facilitate that environment to where you don't question it, because it becomes the norm. After people don't question it, it becomes the norm. And then it's like, remember, repetition. So once they keep doing it and everybody keeps doing it and it's the norm, then it's like that's just part of the system. They don't question it. So that's where the manipulation comes in. That's what it says, manipulate the use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change and regulate the future development of behavior of a society. So everybody's like robots, just do what I tell you to do. And then they construct everything, and then they got, you know, sanctions for if you so-called break the law. Which most of this shit ain't fucking law anyway, it's just, you know, statutory fucking bullshit, color of law. So it's just crazy, man. It's manipulation. It's manipulation, it's fear, it's just wicked, man. And they don't give a fuck. It's just, they've been doing this thing so long, like I said, it's normal. And nobody questions it. Nobody questions it. They keep reinforcing it. That's how you manipulate the mind. That's how you manipulate everything. That's how you keep, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? That's how you keep people psychologically, you know, controlled and like I said, engineered. That's what they call it. Engineers, like controlling you, steering you another way. Engineer steering you this way when you know you're supposed to be this way. So manipulation and regulate the future development of behavior of a society. The context of information security, use of deception. Everything is deception. Deception to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential or personal information that may be used for fraudulent purposes. So that's another form of social engineering, like trying to get you to give up information and use it for their gain, for fraudulent purposes. So one is they create an environment by constructing whatever type of society with whatever laws and rules, and keep reinforcing it, and nobody questions it. And that's the first part of social engineering. And then the next part is, like you said, manipulating individuals into divulging confidential or personal information that may be used for fraudulent purposes. So that means you gotta watch, like you can't trust nothing in this society, man. Nothing, no one, nothing and no one, especially the government, but even people in your environment, because social engineering don't just come from the government. That's just on a large scale, but it's the same dynamic, period, amongst people, period. It's people's mind. Like, some people just got that mind of control. Whenever you got a person where they're all about control, that's a form of social engineering. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's in power, that like the household name, and somebody that's a socialite, or so to speak, but anybody. So you got to be careful with anybody that has influence or the power to control. They're manipulators that can control how other people think. That's where you get that environment of where they try to create the environment of fear, and that's social engineering. It don't just have to be from the government, but it is definitely from the government. So we're going to talk about some techniques and terms. Social engineering techniques are based on weaknesses in human decision making known as cognitive biases. So let's see, what does that mean? Cognitive biases, systematic pattern of deviation from norm or rationality and judgment due to subjective perception of reality. So what does that mean? That means over time, like I said, they created a system, right? They created a system of how to do things their way. And this is not to say this is not the way, it's just a way, which is their way. It's not the way. Excuse me. It's not the way, it's just a way, which is their way. So they created a system pattern of, and it says, of deviation from the norm or rationality and judgment. And that right there controls the masses of people psychologically. So now, I'm not saying everybody. Some people are smart enough to see right through. I'm one of them. But most of them, they're manipulated. And that's going to distort their judgment. You see what I'm saying? That's why it says systematic pattern of deviation from the normal rationality. A lot of these people, they think irrational. They look at you, and you're the one who's making the most sense, but you're the most rational. But they're not thinking rational. That's why it says deviation from the norm or rationality in judgment due to subjective perception of reality. You see what I'm saying? So they keep subjecting the people of this perception of reality, then that's the ideas they're gonna adopt. That's the ideologies they're gonna adopt, because you You keep exposing them to that because you created that environment for them to think like that. Now their whole perception is that. You see what I'm saying? That's cognitive biases. So now your decision making is all screwed up. You might think it's not, but because everybody, you're following the masses. So it's a form, it says social engineering is a form of psychological manipulation. Absolutely. It's definitely manipulation at its finest. At its finest, at its highest. So it's just, you gotta break, it's like what I told you in those last videos, man. You gotta put everything together. Everything is in connection. All of these videos are connected. You just gotta just use your head a little bit. Break out of ways of thinking. I know it's not gonna be easy because we've been taught this shit for so long. But I'm making this video especially for that reason, so you could see, you could draw a connection from the last video, mental fortitude, and then the fear. All of that goes hand in hand with social engineering, because this is psychological manipulation. You see what I'm saying, my brothers, sisters? So you gotta break out of ways of thinking. It's not gonna be easy, but you gotta do it. It can be done, because you gotta look. Because see, it's like this. Everything goes like this. This goes like, this is paramount all across the board. Anything could be reversed, right? You just got to know from where it started from and just slowly but surely, gradually reverse it back. Meaning, everything is done with a system. So you got to know where that system started from and slowly start untangling it backwards, if that makes sense. You got to know from where it started from. You could do it. That goes with, like I said, breaking out of ways of thinking. Where did it start? It started from this. You just got to dig deeper. They did a number on us. I know it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy, but it can be done. It's not gonna happen overnight, but you gotta do it. Because this is some serious stuff I'm talking about, man. Just take heed to what I'm saying. Social engineering, psychological manipulation, cognitive biases. Your perception was framed by this society, because they created that environment and they stared you that way, and you never questioned everything. You never questioned it. You just thought, okay, I'm supposed to be doing stuff. I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be doing that. Then they create the environment of fear. That's why everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Anytime you talk about correcting your status or, opting out this society in this matrix, people get scared, man. That's the fear that I was talking about. You gotta snap out of it, man. You gotta snap out of it. So there's another form of social engineering. I'm gonna get into it briefly, but that's not, it's going into different forms. It's called pretexting, also known in the UK as blagging. Is the act of creating and using invented scenarios, the pretext to engage in targeted victim in a manner that increase the chances that the victim will divulge info or perform actions that would be unlikely in ordinary circumstances. See, government is wicked, and like I said, it's not just the government, it's people, period. You gotta be mindful of the motherfuckers you around, man, because it could be your own peers, it could be your own motherfuckers. Is wicked. They always trying to get up here. If they could get up here, that's why people always playing mind games and master manipulating all type of shit, psychological manipulation. That's why your mind got to be strong. Remember that video that I told you, mental fortitude. You got to have a lot of mental fortitude in order to navigate in this society, because is a lot of mind tricks, man. Deception. See, it says chances that the victim will divulge info or perform actions that would be unlikely in ordinary circumstances. So people just try to manipulate you, you know what I'm saying? Try to get you to adopt an idea, try to get you to do something that you ordinarily wouldn't do. That's another form of social engineering. Manipulation, psychological manipulation. So you just got to be mindful of all of that. See what I'm saying? Keep your mind sharp. Read. Study. Work out. Don't just listen to everybody. Try to think for yourself, man. Everybody got a brain, man. Think for yourself, man. Don't just believe everything anybody says, especially the government. Anybody. Question everything. Question everything. So now, we're going to go into a little abstract. This is relating to like law. Law, because this is implemented in law too. It's not just the government. This is another form of social engineering in the law. Because the law has been manipulated. A lot of people are not unaware that they just think laws are just laws and you're supposed to obey. No. Most of those laws that they say we're supposed to obey have been manipulated. And you just gotta be on point to look for the inconsistencies in those laws. A lot of them, they're circumventing a lot of shit. But anyway, we're gonna get into that in another video. Let me just give you a brief synopsis of the social engineering in the law. So law has been regarded as a mechanism to regulate human conduct, but its role extends far beyond maintaining order. You see what I'm saying? So the law has been regarded as a mechanism to regulate human conduct. And that makes sense, but you got to be careful with that because they do it on the left-hand side. It's supposed to regulate human conduct because it's the law. The law comes from the Most High. But a lot of these laws, like I said, it's not consistent with anything, with equity, with any justice, any fairness. It's just they got a diabolical agenda behind that. Trust me, you gotta analyze everything. Like I said, some things are not easily detected, but if you dig deeper, you'll find it. Trust me. But anyway, so fear, intimidation, threats of negative consequences manipulate people into unsafe action. That's what some of these laws do. And then the trust, building rapport, repairing legitimate helps bypass normal security skepticism. So you gotta analyze everything, man. And if you somebody like me who likes studying the law, you're gonna find all of those inconsistencies in the so-called law, which is the color of law. And what's the agenda behind that? You see what I'm saying? Social proof. People follow others in actions, especially in uncertain situations. That's going off topic a little bit, but it's still on social engineering, but now we off law. Social engineering is a form of trying to have social proof, because if everybody's in a collective and everybody's following suit with the agenda, with the thing that they created to manipulate everybody, is a form of social proof. So if you out of it, then you like, oh, he's an oddball, she's an oddball, you know what I'm saying? There's something is wrong with them, but really they the one who making the most sense. So those oddballs you see, oh, he's weird, you don't know, he's always talking this stuff about the government and you know, and opting out the system and this diplomat stuff. This guy's crazy. he's an outlaw, and no, that motherfucker's making the most sense. But see, if everybody goes along to get along, then that's like a form of social proof. So that's why I said social proof. People follow others' actions. You're just following somebody else, especially in uncertain situations. And that right there don't even make any sense, because how you following somebody and you not even certain what this is? That's why you got to think for yourself, man. I always say think for yourself. Break out of ways of thinking. You following somebody else because it seemed popular and everybody else is doing it, and you not questioning shit, motherfucker. And that's how you end up. And I don't care if everybody's doing it. Everybody's doomed. You see what I'm saying? You gotta question shit, man. You can't just do everything. I always hear that shit. I'm just doing what I'm told, even if I get pulled over by law enforcement. I'm just doing what I'm told. I don't want to hear that shit, man. I don't want to hear that shit. You gotta question everything, man. So another one is scarcity. Creating artificial limitation drives urge, emotion, responses over logical ones. You see? That's a tactic right there. A war tactic. Creating artificial limitations drives urgency, emotion responses over logical ones. So they know what they're doing. They create. See, everything is created. Everything is to create an environment, to facilitate something, to achieve a goal or to get a reaction. You see what I'm saying? That's the reaction you got. These people are wicked, man. They real crafty. You heard what it said? Creating artificial limitations, meaning these things are not real. Anything you need, there's no limit. You can get it, but everything is controlled so they could try to get a reaction out of you, to get an emotional response, and you don't want to act impulsive over certain things. So that's why you gotta be logical. You see what I'm saying? You gotta be logical. You gotta think. You gotta learn how to think. And I know it's easier said than done. That goes into